Yeah.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to JawnZone. This is episode 4. I'm your host, Christopher Jawn, with our other host, Andre Kitchens.
Yeah. And today we're actually going to go over a variety of topics. I mean, right now, summertime, nothing's really going on. I mean, the only thing that's going on right now is baseball. So I guess today we'll go to expand to different topics. So, Chris, what was the first topic that you want to talk about?
Yep. So something that I was a little worried about before was how the Sixers are going to rebound. Maybe we lose two great players, I'm going to consider JJ Redick a great player, but we might lose him too, actually. But
Yeah.
who cares about him? The Sixers window is wide open still. I thought that since the Warriors were so beat up this year, this is probably going to be the only year that they were going to be beatable. But it turns out that both Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson probably aren't going to play the entire next season, no matter where they go. So
Yeah.
this makes it so much – I don't think they're going to come to the Sixers. It makes it so much easier for us to have a chance at winning with one of the most dominant forces in the league. So one of the reasons that this is open is because Anthony Davis got sent to the Lakers. And this shifts power to the West in such a drastic fashion that it really has a domino effect, makes our chances that much better. For instance, Kyrie reportedly maybe wants to go play with Anthony Davis, and instead of going to the Nets or the Knicks in the East, he'd be going to the Lakers. Same thing with maybe even losing Jimmy Butler. I wouldn't want that to happen, but if he does go, I'd want him to go to the West, not to like Toronto or maybe the Knicks or the Nets, somewhere where he'd come back and beat us. That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
So a lot of players might be going and joining them, and the Sixers window is reopened.
Yeah, so I think so too, man. I think that when you look at the Sixers, we could have went a lot further this year than we did. And I think that if anyone gave like the Raptors any competition, it was definitely our Sixers.
Yeah.
I think, Tobias Harris, I think most likely he's gone. So with Tobias being gone, I don't think we're really missing much. He had potential, but we unfortunately could not maximize his potential. So
Yeah.
it came to a point where, he's looking for a max deal, I believe, and we're not the team that's going to give him that. And, as you said, man, with Jimmy Butler going to the West, I think that, that wouldn't be too bad on us because, that will actually take power out of the East. And Jimmy Butler has been good for us, especially in the late game. But if he were to go and if he were to go to the West, I think that would benefit us for the most part because we don't have to see him, more times per year.
Exactly.
And
in the playoffs, we don't have to face him.
Yeah, we don't have to face him in the playoffs where, he has sort of like the inside scoop now. I'm not really a basketball guy, so I guess I can speak in a lot of pejoratives when I say this. But, hopefully we do keep Jimmy Butler. And the trade of the Pelicans, I don't believe that's going to work out well, for the shift of power in the West myself.
Yeah. Plus, we can sign somebody like D'Angelo Russell if we lose Jimmy Butler, who can match his ferocity and maybe get some of those, good points and score what's needed in Ben Simmons' game. So Ben Simmons is looking more and more like he's not going to shoot. We could maybe work around it, but in a couple seasons, he's got to go. That's the problem.
That's the problem, yeah. I think that one player that we could definitely reach for is Kemba Walker.
Yeah.
This guy is not going to ask for a max deal, and he actually, he has something that can really complement our offense. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, they're pretty good at, for the physicality, but it just so happens that they're not the best shooters. And I think that we get Kemba Walker and we can actually feed him the ball and allow our big men to do what they do. We'll have a more balanced offense if ever.
Definitely. So for someone who says he doesn't know much about basketball, you actually seem to know a decent amount. But so moving on, we just actually mentioned a little bit of it, how the Warriors dynasty, I feel it's over. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we agree too much, but but yeah, man. I think that it's for the same end. I think that it's maybe the beginning of the teaming up in the NBA. Also, you
Yeah,
know, and the fact that you see for the last few years where teams have teamed up, it just like came down like a house of cards. I mean, I remember this happening with the Miami Heat,
yeah.
where they were just beat by teams who didn't necessarily had better players, but they were just better coached.
Uh-huh.
And I think that this is really good for the NBA, man. I think that we're going to bring back the rivalries, man.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I agree. Yeah, the Warriors got beaten by Kawhi Leonard. We still should have beaten the Raptors, but as you said earlier, we took them farther than anybody else, so that's a great sign for us. So honestly, the Warriors dynasty missing out. Even if Kevin Durant re-signs with them, he might not be the same player. Achilles injuries are really tough to recover from. That's like one of the furthest places from your heart as
Yeah,
possible, and it's a really small area. So getting blood circulated through there, enough nutrients to rebuild, isn't like as good. Not to mention the amount of atrophy that they experience when they're not using those leg muscles is so much to the point that it's really hard to get back to where they were because they have to work and just build up like regular small muscle there. But that's something that we were just kind of born with. But if you do sustain such an injury, like, and you're not using it that much, your muscles can atrophy and just basically disintegrate. So, I mean, the Warriors being done with Klay Thompson out, and then, like, who knows, Marcus Cousins might even leave. They don't have a bench or anything like that. Who knows where Durant's going, but he's not going to be the same player. Thank God. Like, it's really annoying. I mean, I don't want actually, I don't, that's a terrible thing to say. I shouldn't want anyone to be injured.
yeah,
But I did want Dynasty to end because it's not fair, like, for all the other players in the league knowing that, oh, I got to go against this super team every single year, and they're
yeah,
probably just going to win it all, and it's not even going to be like a fair game between these guys. So,
oh,
like, yeah, you just knew that the Warriors were going to go to the finals, even if they lost this year. They've been
mhm.
there 5 times in a row. That's like 5 years of really good players not experience playoff glory in the best way. So, like, it's not good for the league. It just gets boring. Everyone felt good at first. You know what I mean? When the Warriors won their first one, they're like, oh, look at that. A team that, like, never wins and stuff. And then they turn into that juggernaut, and everyone's like, ah, crap. Like, it's going to be really annoying. Like, because it was a waste of that time. Like, the Sixers, we were tanking, but even if we weren't tanking, like, we weren't going to win the championship against them. So no matter what, it was just a lose-lose situation, almost like not worth watching. Now that the Raptors won, the league is fun again. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, people from all over can enjoy watching games, wishing their team the best, knowing that they have a chance.
Yeah, and I think it was also the way that the Raptors won, man.
Uh-huh.
Basically, a lot of teams that have been winning before just like always had, they had at least like 2 or 3 all-stars, 3 minimum all-stars, I would say.
Yep.
But, the Raptors were basically like the Jackson 5 featuring Kawhi Leonard, where,
Yeah.
they just won through physicality, and then they brought the fundamentals back to the game. And so I think that, with them winning the way they did, I think they brought the the blueprint for actually winning, and a good blueprint that, should be used throughout the league.
Yeah.
Because it is sometimes where I think that, the players are more athletic than ever, but, fundamentally speaking, I don't think that they are as fundamentally sound as the players that came into the league for all the one and dones in college,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think back then, I mean, you always had good dynasties. I mean, you always had, the Chicago Bulls and Lakers and Celtics perennially. But over the time, they actually balanced out. But, I thought it was getting back to that point where you were just going to have these, like, perennial dynasties, just like we're in the NBA for decades. But I think that's coming to an end. And I think that this is one, the signal word for that comes to an end.
I agree, and that's
Yeah,
a great like analysis. And I really didn't want players to be injured for it to happen, but
yeah.
it's a great thing now. We're all like exhaling. But
Uh,
there is one dynasty that does seem undefeated. The New York Knicks dynasty of being terrible.
It's
So
terrible.
I have a Knicks fan.
W versus Dynasty, huh?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
bottom of the gutter. They have a terrible owner who
Yeah.
also is young. So it's not like he's gonna die soon and some other, person's gonna inherit the team or sell the team that they might think that they can turn it around or try something different. So they're stuck with that guy for a long time. Really
Yeah.
grateful. And my friend is a Knicks fan, and he was talking so much shit like all over like the like summer and before even in the winter. He's telling me, oh, we're going to get Kevin Durant, we're going to probably get trade for Anthony Davis, and then we might even get Kyrie in there with them. And then
Yeah.
like he even had like another thing saying like, well, it might be between Kevin Durant and Kyrie, and then we're going to trade for Anthony Davis, and then we're going to draft Zion. So like none of those things happened. Like Anthony Davis didn't get traded to them. Kevin Durant's too injured to do anything for them next year. And
Yeah.
Zion didn't fall in their lap. There's no Zion in the next year's draft. So they just are in the shithole right now. And it's so hilarious. Like, it's funny because one of the things that got me through the process was watching how the New York Knicks were doing just as bad, but they weren't trying to. So, like the thing is, like we were tanking. They were just trying and like doing terrible with Carmelo Anthony, and
Yeah.
now like Porzingis left them, and then who knows? Like they're trying to talk themselves up, saying the third overall pick is going to be R.J. Barrett, who's going to be amazing. I mean, come on, man! Like you guys are in a dysfunctional organization with a dysfunctional owner. That's not a good combination. Like, and the New York media will eat anybody alive. Like, there's no way. I wouldn't even put it past the owner to use the media to try to spy on any star player that came to his place to try to make sure he's like making smart decisions or whatever. But that's going to piss them off. Like, so it's just hilarious that the Knicks are in such a shithole right now. And my friend was trying to talk smack, saying, "Oh, you guys couldn't even make it." Past second round. It's like, well, we were watching the playoffs this year. Like, what were you doing? Like,
It's funny, man, because like I think that up to this point, I think like the New York Knicks are the junkyard of the NBA, where they might get some maybe decent players like who are decent in prime, but like then after that, they're spare parts. Somebody Amari Stoudemire. I mean, who else? Like Carmelo Anthony. DeAndre Jordan, he's still on the team. He can still contribute to a limited extent, but I think that in a while he'll be spare parts too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that for the most part, man, the New York Knicks stars, I think that people really want to go to New York because of the media market there, but they aren't really, going there to win. I mean, I don't know when's the last time you had a Knicks team that wanted to win besides Latrell Sprewell when he was choking his coach. But like that, yeah, I mean, because his coach was, because he was the last player that wanted to win in that city.
Yeah, I think some players like the attitude of how the Knicks used to be, like how their colors, they think it looks cool, how they're in like a lot of documentaries with Spike Lee, and how they're like going to make a lot of money from sponsors and stuff if they go there. But at the same time, like, that owner is so crazy. Like, you don't want to put up with that. Like, so I think the league stepped in and made sure they didn't get the first overall pick because they didn't want to ruin Zion's future. Like, they're like, oh, we got to protect this guy. He's going to be one of our main stars. Like,
they put the fix in for the draft.
Exactly. So, I mean, they probably do that every single year. But I'm dealing with a little bit of a helicopter, but I think it's died down.
Oh, yeah, I think that was from the Knicks, man. They got the SWAT team coming after you.
Oh, yeah. They spend more effort, like criticizing fans and getting in fights with fans and shit like that than they actually do building a team. That's, like, part of the problem. Like, the owner is crazy. He's, like, always in articles, like, bashing people and, like saying, like, oh, I'm, like, a victim in all these circumstances. Like, one time – he was trying to, like, sue somebody because the guy told him to sell the team. It's like, the guy, he said he was verbally assaulted. Verbally assaulted? let me tell you, there's no such thing as being verbally assaulted. You can't assault someone verbally. You
Yeah.
can't like physically cause pain to somebody like that. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, because like there are
Yeah.
there are things that you could say that are illegal. I mean, there's defamation of character. I mean, there's slander.
Yeah.
And there's things that can like maybe hurt your earning potential. But for someone to say, "Oh, sell your team," that doesn't fall under any other of those rules.
Yeah, and it's not like the guy was threatening his life or anything close to that. Like he's acting like he was under. That's what like threat of assault to me should be. Like any terms of assault is a threat on your like health right there that could possibly hurt you to the point where you die. So like that did not happen. You can't like say something so bad to someone that they're just gonna drop dead from it. It's not like as bad as like words can be. Like you can't like I don't know like you can't cause a heart attack by telling someone what the weather is or something. Like it's just not possible. But all right, moving on. We're gonna go back to what Andre says he knows more about, the Eagles and NFL. Couple things happening since Wentz got his deal. Turns out that Dak Prescott wants more money than him.
Nice.
So what does that spell for the rest of the team?
Well, you know what? Well, I think that spells that you have a young and upcoming team, and as much as I hate to say this, the Cowboys actually do have some potential All-Pro players. So if they have that, they're going to want money. And so I think that's actually a good thing for the Eagles, man, whereas, we have given Wentz that money, but we structured the deal in a way that's actually salary cap friendly. But, the Cowboys, they don't have a Howie Roseman. They don't have a Littlefinger as their GM. And so the way that deal's going to be structured for Dak, I don't believe it's going to be nearly as team friendly as for the Eagles, that deal. And then, you also have like Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and you have good players on the offensive line that are also potential All-Pros or even All-Pros already, but they're going to need to pay them also.
Yeah. So they can afford all of that. They have what's it called? They have I heard Amari Cooper also wants a really high top tier deal. Ezekiel Elliott is also due for a new contract soon. And the funniest part is they're all due for contracts around the same time. If they're giving max contracts to these guys, like even if someone just surprisingly does amazing and has an all-pro season next year, they can't afford to pay them. They can't even afford to pay. Let's stick to the triplets is what they call like when you have a really good quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. And just talking about them, I don't think they can afford to keep all three of them. It's going to be too hard. So, do you think they might move on from one of them?
Yeah, I think that they're most likely going to have to move on from one of them. Mm-hmm. And if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be the one player with, that's not going to have upside for too long. And, call it crazy, man, but I think that might be Ezekiel Elliott. He's a running back in the league. He's coming into his fourth year. And the average lifespan for peak performance for a running back in this league, like when I looked it up, is about 3.5 years. Yep. So in the downside, I mean, running backs are more expendable. I think that, with the next 2 years or so, that's when you're going to start to see him over the hill and unfortunately for them, but fortunate for us. How about you?
I totally agree. You're not crazy. It's the same thing that happened to Todd Gurley. I mean, he got his super mega deal, biggest ever for a running back, and it was supposed to change how running backs are paid, and he immediately has knee tendonitis or arthritis or something like that. And he can't even play like in the postseason. Looked horrible when he was playing. So that's going to spell trouble for every other running back that was trying to get a big deal like that, because every team's going to be like, oh crap, that's a huge problem. Yeah. And I think the best part on the Eagles side for this is how that they spent a 4th overall pick on him. Mm-hmm. So usually when you spend that high of a pick, you want to pick someone that's going to be on your team at least 10 years. At least, yeah. So the fact that, they might have to move on from him, and that's a beautiful thing for us. So he's not going to be pounding us into the dirt like he was. But Also, something to keep in mind, he's been in the news, in the media, way more than his other counterparts in terms of bad attention, like where he was like ripping the shirt off of that one girl and getting in trouble for assaulting people and shit like that. So, like, yeah, he's having real trouble. Funny thing, I actually just heard about this yesterday. They suspended the tight end. I think his name is Rico Gathers, and he's on the Cowboys, and they suspended him for one game because of substance abuse. So maybe that's why they signed Witten, because they knew he was going to be suspended, and then his replacement.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, man, because like with Witten, you got proven product, and I mean Jerry Jones, he has this like almost illogical loyalty to his players, man.
Yeah.
Okay, you're like in your late 30s and you've been announcing for like a year or two. Why don't you just come back with the team? And apparently, Wynn actually skipped some, so-called mandatory team organized activities, because he's a veteran and things like that. But, like, is that good leadership for your team? Or is that a good example for your team for leadership? Yeah. So, overall, I don't think that he has really any more left in the tank. Don't get me wrong. We're blocking somewhat. If anything, I think he'll just be a patchwork offensive lineman in his offense for the Cowboys.
Yep. Well, I totally agree. All right.
Got it.
Well, we actually are going to continue on from episode 2 in this next portion and project our stats or our prediction of the win-loss record for the second half of the Eagles season right now.
Yeah.
Last time we left off, I think we agreed that we'll probably put the Bills down in the dirt. But even if we don't, they're not even like a divisional or a opponent in the conference. So there is a team to lose to. I guess like that's probably one to lose to. So they probably might get a little too cocky about beating us when we're not really even trying. Like if they get up a little bit in the first quarter, we might just be like, okay, guys, let's prepare for the next week or whatever. So, all right, looking up at next in our schedule is against the Chicago Bears. Now, this is a game I might myself try to make it home to go to, but it's on the 3rd of November, and they're looking for some revenge from that double-doing playoff loss. But that's really on them for signing our former kicker who had kicking struggles. Like, he has one job to do, and he's not good at it. At that point, maybe you need to find a new guy. And I really don't know what the problem is, like why people can't find kickers and stuff. Like they just either don't do enough scouting for it or they just don't care. Like they're just trying to get someone that was on another team so they don't have to waste time and effort to even pick up a kicker. So that's their fault.
Yeah, because I think that, from reading the reports from training camp, and for reading the reports, like for finding a new kicker, I think what happened was that they actually brought in 2 kickers.
Yeah.
They brought in 2 kickers to actually compete and try out, and then they ended up cutting both of them. So maybe it's soldier filled, man. I mean, maybe, something telling them, hey, man, get a new stadium.
That's completely true because I remember every single time they play there, their field is one of the worst. I think it might be like turf or something like that, or just like really bad like dirt or whatever. Yeah. But apparently if you watch our games, it's really hard to get a footing when you're running on that field. And a lot of players end up getting injured on that field because they're not used to how you're supposed to run on it. It's almost like running on ice is how I describe it. It's miserable. And like players like Deshaun Jackson, who are really speedy guys, have trouble running as fast as they can on this really slippery stuff because you need traction. You need to be able to push off of the ground. If it's slipping under you when you're trying to run as fast as you can, you're just going to fall. So they try to short step it, and they can't run as fast. So people like Deshaun Jackson just get taken out of the game because it's just the field is so shitty. And it should be a violation against like health safety code. Whatever.
Yeah, shitty field, shitty weather. I mean, they're right near the Great Lakes where, you just have a conundrum of climate problems. I mean, winds going whipping each way. You got the weather. The weather is like really sporadic and unpredictable, especially in wintertime. And then the field, I think that they're one of the few NFL stadiums that actually do not have a turf grass field.
Huh.
You know, if I'm correct. I mean, you know, just looking at it on TV and watching how the players try to like really, you know, adapt to it or acclimate to it, it looks clumsy. You
Yeah.
know, but Chicago get a new stadium, but in the meantime, they're playing at our house, which
Yep.
is good.
Thank
Yeah.
God. So what are your predictions for the game?
Really, man, this is a wild card game. I mean, we did beat them last time we played them at their home, but I actually have some respect for them. I think that we can win this game, but, man, for me, it's 50-50. You know, I think that, you know, they still had a good defense. And Khalil Mack, I mean, I'm always worried about him.
Uh-huh.
You know, yeah, even though we shut him down last year in the playoffs, I think he's still coming. So, I think if we win this game, it'll be by a field goal.
Okay. I actually see the Bears taking a big step back this year. So they got rid of Jordan Howard, who's on our team now. They're trying to start it with a new running back, but like their quarterback, although he did display some like good arm accuracy or whatever when he was playing against us that one time, he still isn't like a fully matured quarterback. So like I feel like the whole team is going to regress a little bit. Usually teams that end up with the first overall defense are the most like scrutinized and looked at by offensive coordinators over the next year. And it's really rare that a team will have a consecutive back-to-back year of, you know, having the number one defense in the league. For instance, 2 years ago, the Minnesota Vikings were the number one defense. And guess who beat that number one defense? Well, Doug Peterson, yeah. So he beat them, and then he beat last year's number one defense, the Bears, which is why I think we will probably handily beat them by 7 or 10 points.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can see them having like a lot of trouble, especially because we have the two of the best tackles in the league. I think we can shut Khalil Mack down just like we did last time. So, yeah, it's going to be probably like a 24-10 or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next one up is someone I want to beat every single time we play them. I still haven't forgiven them for cheating against us in the Super Bowl when we lost with McNabb and T.O. and Dawkins. So these guys are the worst, and they're the former Super Bowl champions, and we had to beat them to be the champions. There's so many reasons to not like this team, and their fans are like terrible. So the New England Patriots, we play next, and thank God again, it's at home. So we are both coming off of a bye. It's people are like misclaiming that the Patriots coming off of a bye and they'll have a better advantage, but we're coming off of 1-2, so it shouldn't be a problem. But honestly, I hate these guys, and they look weaker than ever. Their tight end is gone. He was like the key piece of their offense, especially considering Tom Brady's arm strength isn't what it once was, so he can't throw it down the field. I don't think their first-round draft pick wide receiver is going to be really that good. They're not really good at drafting first-round picks unless they're like tackles, offensive or defensive. So, they're probably actually going to step back a decent amount either this year or next year. The Patriots will not be what they used to be. Maybe this year. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I mean, what I think that's going to happen in this game is that the Patriots are going to try to definitely utilize Julian Edelman. And one thing that our cornerbacks have been not too well on, or the short passing routes, like the short slant or short in and out. You know, whereas like they'll try to exploit the defense from under. Because our linebackers aren't really too great in coverage. I mean, we don't emphasize the linebacker position. But I think for the most part, their offense is just going to be one-dimensional. I mean, you know, they won't have a running game against us. Tom Brady himself is not a very mobile quarterback. He never has been, and most likely never will be. So I think that really they're going to try to emphasize the pass game. But we get a good pass rush on Brady, make him tap dance a little bit. You know, and we shut down the short passing lanes. I think that we could definitely beat them in this game. I think that, you know, for the most part, we'll either beat them by a larger amount or we'll beat them by a short amount. But I think that we will win this game.
I totally agree because usually teams that beat them have the defensive line to do it. If you even
Yeah.
look at the Super Bowl this past couple of months ago, Tom Brady wasn't able to do much at all, and that was with tight end Gronkowski in there. So, defensively, they were not able to do good against a good pass rush, but also Wade Phillips showed the blueprint on how to beat him. So that's even more tape for Jim Schwartz to look at and say, hey, these are ways that we could beat them. I think that we're probably going to beat them pretty good because of our defensive line is so deep. If we hit him hard once, the whole team will crumble. All we got to do is get in there. It'll be tough. We probably won't get him in the first quarter. Maybe we'll hit him in the second quarter. But once we do, that whole team is just going to fall apart. Like, I don't even know the description I want to use, but it's just going to be so nice to see. I can see us winning 27-10.
27-10.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they say, but, this is the time of year where the Patriots actually, they could do well this time of the year, but I think it gets a good defensive line. Like you said, what Wade Phillips showed in the Super Bowl, even though they didn't win, I mean, they were only able to get off about 13 points.
Yeah.
And, for us, I mean, you're not going to beat the Eagles with 13 points, when we're full power. So, yeah, I think that you got to do a bit more, better than that, Belichick. But I think we definitely got this game in the bag.
Yep.
Yep. And
next,
what did you say?
Our mortal enemy is up next, the Seahawks. They're another bird, and they have a mobile quarterback, and that is the kryptonite to our defense. So how do you see this game going?
Oh, man, because, the way I see this game, man, is that this might be one of the trap games. Winnable game, just like our last two games against them. But Russell Wilson, I mean, he's like a magician back there. I've never seen a quarterback who would take the snap and turn his back toward the line and then throw it. I've never seen that from any quarterback that we have played ever, not even from Michael Vick when, we played him back when he was with the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was what really be the key here is that we're going to really need a lot of help from our cornerbacks, especially the slot corners, because, for the most part, the Seahawks, they just got DK Metcalf. He's a really big, deep threat. But I think that, Russell Wilson doesn't really have a lot of faith in his offensive line. Uh-huh. So I think that he's going to be running for his life back there, but, he's just going to bootleg a lot of plays. I think that we're going to need a lot of help in secondary coverage. Yep. But I think that, we come out in this game, man, but this is a trap game. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we lose, but, for the most part, we can win this game. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a close one, man. I mean, I can't call it a score right now, but it's going to be a close one.
Well, I see us having offensive problems against them like we've had in the past. For some reason, we just don't seem to get it off that good against them, even when they're injured or they don't have their greatest players in there. So like you were saying, I feel this is a trap game too because we're coming off beating the world champions in the Patriots and also beating the Bears again. So I actually think that we're going to lose this game. Probably going to be 17-6, honestly. Probably won't be a great performance by our team, but we have a good, easy target next. And even though we're playing the Seahawks at home, I don't know if we have enough to beat them. Plus, going 16-0 is near impossible. You have to lose sometimes. So it only makes sense that this is a team that we lose against, someone we've struggled against offensively and defensively. Yeah. And we just can't seem to get it together. So that's my loss, but that's the first loss that I've talked about in the second part of the season. Going back before, I'm going to try to see if I can remember. I think we ended up losing to, I think I said the Falcons and then the Vikings. But so just with the Seahawks there, that should only be 3 losses so far. So then we're, closing out with some easy opponents. So who's up next, Andre?
So who we got up right next is we actually have a game that I plan on traveling for myself because, it might be a nice vacation And plus, like, we get to see our team totally demolish the Dolphins. Like, just a show.
Yep.
Yes. We have them as a 1 o'clock game, pretty early game, and it's a game in December. So, I mean, I guess we'll start off the December to remember. And so, like you said, from your last predictions, at this point, you predicted about 3 losses, and I had about 3 losses. So, at this point, we're 8-3, and I think we're making a push for either number 1 or number 2 seed in the NFC at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is a game that, we'll polish this off. With the last game being, a prime time game, this game being a 1 o'clock game, I think that the Dolphins, there's not really much analyze here. I think that we just go in, we smash them. I take the flight home with a win. How about you?
I totally agree. This is going to be a demolishing, a thrashing, a comeback after being pissed off for losing against the Seahawks. We're going to come back angry and knowing that December football is what we thrive in. So this will probably be, the last good weather game of the season for the Eagles, but we do play really good in cold weather. So I'm actually looking forward to having that cold front come in December. And after this game, even though we're going to demolish them, the cold front's going to come in and chill out all of our opponents, and hopefully it'll be a lot easier to deal with. So this game, I can see us dropping a 40 burger on them. So 40-7 is going to be my final score prediction.
Oh yeah, Madden scores, huh?
Yeah.
I don't see us like not doing very well in this game.
Yeah, what are they going to be playing, like Josh Rosen or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah,
so Ryan Fitzpatrick is great for 2 or 3 starts. This is like what, game like 14 or something like that? Like Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be a joke. Josh Rosen isn't anything to be afraid of. They don't really have that many weapons offensively. This is going to be a systematic demolishing. Like there may be a war crimes issue for this team. Like
that's what I was saying, man. And I think at this point, it's actually week, 13. I think at this point, like they're already out of the playoffs. So what they'll be going for is that draft pick. So if anything, Ryan Fitzpatrick will probably not even be in this game. They'll probably put Josh Rosen in, prepare for the draft and prepare for next year. So we're going to send them right along that way and give them more points for the draft.
Yep.
That's what I think.
All right. So we've closed out our season with 4 straight games against NFC East opponents. And also, this is the first time we played the Giants. So that's kind of odd, but we're playing the Giants on the 9th, and then we're playing them on the 29th. Let's just talk about both those games. What do you think those games are going to be like?
Total annihilation. Total annihilation.
By the end of the season, like usually teams that are dog shit have like just given up. They're just collecting checks at that point. They want the offseason to start. It's cold. Their families don't want to go to the games anymore. Like it's a miserable experience. So they just cash it in, and like unless they're trying to play for a contract, a lot of players are injured too. So what will happen on some of these teams that are going through like a 3-13 season is some of their best players will get like ticky-tack injuries and then be put on injured reserve for the rest of the season because it's like there's no point of bringing them back. By this game, they might not have Saquon Barkley in the game anymore. So like both of these games, I think we're just going to destroy them unless we have home field advantage locked up throughout the playoffs and maybe even the first seed, or we can't get that first seed and we're secure in the second seed. The last game of the season is versus the Giants. I can see us just putting in backups and not even trying. So
I see that. Yeah, because what I see, with that is that I think that by the last game of the season, I think that we already know what position we're in the NFC playoffs. So most likely we'll fall back and we'll just put a lot of our backups in. But the first time that we play, I think that we're definitely going to do it as a must win because I think that. The race to the top of the NFC is actually going to be pretty close this year. There's a lot of good teams. But, this team, for the most part, they're in rebuilding mode. They have an aging quarterback who, by the end of the season, they'll probably just, pull him out of his misery and I think they'll have Daniels come in. They'll have Daniels come in, and they'll just be more experimental during this time of year. But yeah, I think for his future's sake, they might want to maybe even try to just shut down Saquon Barkley. Because I think that with their new quarterback regime, they're going to need a decent supporting cast, and you don't want to wear someone like Saquon Barkley down before the kid actually gets a shot, to really fall into his role with Giants. But they're rebuilding more. I think that they're not really going to be focused on winning this game, but they're just going to be focused on what to look forward to. If that's either developing, the offense or seeing what they have on defense and try to really get the rebuilding moving along. Mm-hmm. So that's what I believe. So I guess you want to bundle these up and bow. They're both games are going to be both total annihilation.
Our backups might even destroy them. So that's
That's
looking at you, New York. They are in such a disarray. The Giants are terrible. The Knicks are terrible. And the Jets don't really look that good. The Nets are, they're okay, but whatever. All right.
Yeah, so Chris,
oh,
my bad. I didn't want to do that. But, Chris, so in these two games, man, so since we're pretty much got that in the bag, man, what's on the backups you want to see in the game, that we have, that we want to try out maybe?
Well, I want to see that new quarterback that we got, Clayton Thorson, who kind of looks like a quarterback but doesn't have all the techniques yet or the plays calls down. So I want to see our backups, the quarterback position with Carson Wentz kind of being injury prone is one of the most important positions I think we should have looked at. So backup quarterback, definitely. I would love if Jason Peters is still going strong by this point in the season. I would love to get one of the new guys in there, maybe even I don't even care if we try Big V in there, just see maybe, hey, we can recapture some of that magic, or we can get that rugby player from Australia, or we can even get Andre Dillard, the new guy from, or we just drafted. So, those are probably the two most important positions, because in terms of backups, most other positions, I actually pretty much know what the backups are going to do. Defensive line is set. The backups are just going to be rotated in. The cornerbacks are so deep, we've seen them all. The wide receivers is a pretty solid group. You know what I mean? They're all veterans, so don't really need to see them. Running backs, we have a lot of guys, so don't really need to see them. But, yeah. What about you?
Hey, man, there's a couple of things that I want to see. From a wide receiver point, man, I want to see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I'm hearing a lot of good things about him in practice, especially about the red zone targeting. So I want to see that. Yeah, I want to see him go. Another guy I do want to see is Jordan Mailata. Now, I do definitely want to see Jordan Mailata and play, somewhere in our offense. With his size, maybe we could try him out even at the fullback position. Whereas he could be a lead block on some maybe short yards plays. Even if we can't use him necessarily on the offensive line right now. And then another guy who I really want to see is this is sort of a gadget play, if you want to call it that right now, but I really do want to see Deshaun Jackson and kick returning. Maybe for 1 or 2 times, just to see if we still got that magic that we had in the Meadowlands from years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of nostalgia, man.
It's just dangerous, though, because that's one of the positions, kick returner, punt returner, you're most vulnerable. So risking him to maybe get injured just to see what he's got, I don't know if that's the best decision, but that'd be interesting to see.
Oh, got you. Yeah, that's what I got for myself.
Okay. So the next 2 games we got are still in the NFC East. First, on the 15th, we're going to the Foreskins.
Oh, yes. Foreskins. That's what we will refer to them now, because they can't trademark their name anymore. So we call them any name we want them to.
Yeah. Whatever we want. So what do you think we're going to do in that game?
Well, so like I said, in that game, it really depends on where the Redskins are at this point in the season. I think that last season they actually did a lot of potential they were actually leaders in the NFC East leading up to about week 10, where, their quarterback got injured, Alex Smith, and then they started to turn around there. So I think a lot of their players were actually injured last year, and that really started their downward slope. I mean, out of all the teams that I dislike in the NFC East, I think that I at least dislike the Redskins out of the Cowboys, Redskins, and Giants.
Yeah.
But I think it really depends on where they're at in the season, and it could go either way. I mean, they're not going to have an average season. It's either they're going lights out or their season at this point has come to an end. So that really depends, but I think either way we'll be able to come out with a sure win in this game. I'm thinking 7+ points in this game that will beat them by.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Every single season I look at the foreskins, it seems like they're either without their franchise quarterback or whatever happened to their best defensive player. So then they're just like limping off of the field at the end of every single game, and like at the end of the season they're like dead, or they're just magically all of a sudden good and having a good year. Honestly, they probably seem like our toughest opponent this year because the Cowgirls, they have like so many suspensions on defense, and then everyone wants to get paid. That might affect their whole chemistry. So I can kind of see us having like a bad game against these guys and unexpectedly dropping this one. Just this one, though. Like, I can see us having a problem with these guys, and then we'll probably win the next 2 games. So out of this 4-game NFC East stretch, we might lose to them. I can see us losing by 3 points on like a last-second field goal by them, and they're all like excited because they're like, oh, maybe next year like turn out much better or whatever. But Dwayne Haskins, maybe he's a real deal. We'll see.
Yeah, I see, man. Because like I guess that a lot of the teams, we're going to call them next year chairs, man. Next year chairs. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess for next game we got is right now they're misnomer the Cowboys, or should I say the Cowgirls? Sorry for getting that wrong. Yeah, you see that turn out.
I can see us actually winning this. They're probably going to have like a 7-9 or 8-8 year because any kind of consistency from one season to the next in terms of playoffs doesn't seem to be in their cards. Their coach is not that great. Their coach is better when he's had like a bad year and more time to think about what to do for the next year. It almost seems like once he makes the playoffs, he tries to do the same thing next year and it just doesn't work because everyone caught up to him. So that's why they don't make the playoffs. So this year that's going to probably happen. They have so many suspensions on their defensive line and everything. Their offensive weapons all want to be paid, and they're not paid yet. So who knows? It's going to be problems with that. So I can see us winning like 20-7 in this one.
20-7, yeah. I mean, I think that this one, it depends on how we're doing this time of the year. So with our predictions, man, I mean, either be the number 1 seed or number 2 seed in SC. I see us like maybe slacking on this game if we already have it locked in for the NFC playoffs. And on their side, I see them actually fighting and scratching for that last wild card spot. Yeah. Whereas they got a few lucky plays and they managed to actually squeeze out a few games, and but they're not too great, so they're actually scratching and crawling for that wild card spot. And then, with Dak Prescott getting a new contract, and then, this essentially for Ezekiel Elliott, I think that they'll definitely try to emphasize Ezekiel Elliott more in the offense, or he'll demand for that. Yeah. But I don't think that it'll be enough to really put them on top. I think that, this year in the NFC, we're the big dogs, and, so it really depends on how we're doing. And how we're doing will determine if we want to win this game or not. But if we need to win, I say we go in there, we beat them, 7+ points.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end, we both projected our records, and for me, I can see us getting the 13-3 or 12-4, and I think Andre's along the same lines. So, I mean, that's a pretty good season looking ahead, and we think that our guys are going to be pretty good.
this isn't the norm. We're not usually super optimistic, or at least I'm not. I'm not always saying there's not many holes or there's not many things to do or to improve the team, but honestly, they've done such a great job. And I mean, obviously they won a Super Bowl recently. That goes to show how much shit they got together. So hopefully this turns out good. And I feel that we're going to have a great season ahead of us. I can't wait till it starts. It's too far away, but oh, well, there's not much to do about it.
And I think that we'll most certainly do better than last year, because I think the reason why we didn't do too well is because we had really a big roster shakeup, and we also had a personnel shakeup with a lot of teams just poaching our players, but also poaching our really important defensive, our really important coaches for the position. But I think that, there hasn't really been too big of a chance besides Joe Douglas going to the Jets, but I don't really believe that will affect our play on the field because, he's not a coach, or he doesn't really, affect player play on a particular position, like the changes that we had last year, where Frank Wright left and also John DeFilippo left. So I think that, if anything, man, 12-4 or 13-3, I think those are definitely fair odds for us. I think so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's great, and we're looking forward to an amazing season.
Oh, yeah.
One last thing that we're going to talk about is the recent hiring of Josh McCown, a 17-year vet, just retired and joined ESPN as an analyst. So, the guy he was a mediocre quarterback. I have no reason to believe he would be anything other than a mediocre broadcaster. He's the most boring, vanilla guy I've ever seen. I have no idea why this keeps on happening. I'm looking forward to him putting me to sleep when he's announcing or talking about these games and stuff. Great. Yeah. And what is he going to talk about? His experiences on all these teams? It's not like he went to any good teams. He was on terrible teams unless he was backing up a really good quarterback. So it's not like he had great experience with even being a leader or anything like that. So why he getting this is showing a disturbing trend, at least to me, when we have 72% of the league of NFL is non-white. But across the board, all announcers and broadcasters seem to be white. So Josh McCown joined some of the following: Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, Chris Collinsworth, Tony Romo, Al Michaels, Phil Simms, Howie Long, Terry Bradshaw, Rich Eisen, Jason Witten, Skip Bayless, Joe Tessitore. The list goes on and on and on. So, how does this happen where 72% of the league is non-white, but it seems like 99% of these broadcasters and analysts are white? How does that happen, Andre?
Well, I think that it's actually a myriad of different factors. I think that race could be one of them, but I also think that there are other factors contributing to that.
Yeah.
For one, I think that it's really the factor of choice for non-white athletes, especially a lot of black athletes, and what they want to do post-NFL career. For the most part, I think a lot of black athletes are really marketable for these athletic wear companies like Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, and so on. And so I think that they actually choose to go into that market. Another thing that a lot of, I would say, black athletes choose to do is go into traditionally, the music industry. Mm-hmm. Whereas the music industry or the entertainment industry, that's different from sports broadcasting and really talking. And so I think we combine that. I think it's a myriad of factors. I mean, one of them definitely including their choice of career post NFL.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you then, what NFL musicians have you heard?
Well, they're not exactly being musicians. But for instance, there are a host of music. I mean, Deshaun Jackson actually does have a rap album out.
Yeah.
You see that. And then you see Dominic McNabb actually get involved in the music industry as a producer. So a lot of the choices for they're not necessarily in front of the camera. for that. But I think it's just different career pathways, and I think that a lot of like the broadcast networks, they prefer backup quarterbacks or backup leaders. I mean, this is not the case with Josh McCown, who are yeah, yeah. I say who they prefer that because for the most part, I think starting quarterbacks, they don't go for those broadcasting jobs. And honestly, in the league, this is a league where 72% of players are black, but I would say over 90% of backup quarterbacks in the league are actually white guys. So there's a larger pool for that. And what do you say?
Well, I think that also my position is more on the race side. The reason that backup quarterbacks are white is due to race. There's a ton of black quarterbacks who just get shuffled after they're considered non-starters. No one wants to keep them as backups or anything. That is a race thing because historically, even up to now, black quarterbacks are always asked to switch their positions because they're not considered to be smart enough by these NFL people, these know-it-all white people that consider themselves to be the masterminds behind the whole sport. I mean, it's actually 68% of the players are black and 4% of the players are just non-white, like Hispanics or Islanders or other things like that. But at the same time, there should be more quarterbacks chosen, and then there'd be more analysts that would become, okay, there are backup quarterbacks, we're going to take them. They're not getting chosen because it's the whole stereotype, incorrectly being assumed that minorities aren't as smart and they can't be quarterbacks and are not as good as leaders and things like that.
Well, this is my thing. Yeah, this is my thing also. I mean, is it a question of intelligence or is it a question of athleticism? Because
what?
Athleticism. Because we look at the different, even the 40 times in the combine, right? Whether it's by any other factor, it just so happens that 98% of guys who are running 4.4 below a 4.4 in the 40 dash are not white. And so, I think that a lot of the black players in the league are actually steered toward more athletic positions based on the results that they're seeing in combines. I mean, for instance, if you have someone that may not be the best quarterback, but it's okay, this guy's still a great athlete. He's not the best quarterback, but he's 40 time and his acceleration is great. So while I think that a lot of white players, for instance, a lot of white quarterbacks who be steered toward being a backup role, I think that they try to utilize a black player for more of an athletic position because of the results from the combine. I'm not proclaiming any athletic or intellectual superiority of one over the other, but I think just from seeing the raw results, you do see a lot of black players who can't make it, they're directed toward other positions, while a lot of white players who can't make it, they're directed. A lot of white quarterbacks who can't make it, they're directed toward being a backup quarterback role.
Yeah, I can see your argument, but let me raise you one a little bit. Why then are the backup white quarterbacks completely terrible? And why are most of these broadcasters completely terrible? If they weren't trying to get rid of these African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, every single one, Asian Americans, doesn't matter. If they weren't trying to steer away from them, then why do they continue to put such shitty performances out there? Chris Collins is the sleaziest sounding person I've ever heard. So I know there's some people that Skip Bayless that get their positions because it's shock effect and they're just trying to generate clickbait or whatever articles and things like that. But at the same time, they threw what's his name, the Jason Witten in there, and Troy Aikman is there. They're terrible. I mean, Tony Romo is great, and he's much better as an announcer and then he was a player. But at the same time, most of these guys are completely horrible. It makes no sense whatsoever if you had a black quarterback who ran an okay 40 time to throw him into a wide receiver thing that's most likely not going to work out when you don't have a backup quarterback. And your backup quarterback is so bad. There's people like Chase Daniel getting a job. They're terrible. Josh McCown was in the league for 17 years.
Yeah.
He was horrible. I don't even care if he had that one okay season in the Chicago Bears. Like, for the most part, he was absolutely terrible. And you would think that maybe, like, having a backup quarterback with some kind of athleticism would help out your backup quarterback position a little bit. But they just don't think that. So, like, if they were replacing, these black analysts with good people, or they were putting competent backup quarterbacks in there, I would see your argument a little more valid. But because of the lack of it's just disrespectful, the amount of terrible talent they throw into these positions when there's clearly players and announcers and just people that are way superior at that thing than the horrible announcers and white quarterbacks they throw in there and stuff.
Well, my thing is,
not to mention, let me talk about how many first-round quarterbacks are wasted that are just assumed to be starter material. Let's go over the list, like Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert. There was that guy, I don't even remember, he was on the Vikings or some shit like that. I forget what his name was. He was terrible. And then there was like that guy, Jimmy Clausen, who's taken from Carolina Panthers. And like, there's all these examples. Like Josh Rosen was back. Everyone's convincing themselves that Sam Darnold is good when Tyrod Taylor, a black quarterback, took their team to the playoffs for the first time in like 17 years, and they just got rid of him. Like, that's the kind of disrespect they're throwing towards these people. So you can't tell me that they're trying to fit a guy into a better place, or some people are trying to take different careers, when you're literally having the worst of the worst garbage is being thrown in those positions. So at least that's my take on it.
I mean, because like my take on it is that, of course, like, I mean, that does factor into it. I mean, I think that, definitely race does have a little factor into it. And what I mean by that is that I'm not going to completely go off the rails and just say race is the only thing that matters. I think that, there's just so many other factors that, you really got to consider when you talk about like the choice of quarterback and the choice in broadcasters. I think that, for instance, in the broadcast world, you're broadcasting to a nationally televised audience. And I think that, when you talk about like national television, it's not, it's still stuck in the past, whereas, they're broadcasting to people that still depend on, television, how can I say, terrestrial broadcasting to get their television.
Yeah, and they don't have internet or shit like that. Like living in Bumblefuck or like Midwest or in the
Midwest, something like that.
Bible Belt, like some crappy ass town no one's ever heard of.
And that's what I'm saying. And like, there's just like not a lot of diversity when you talk about like national, when you talk about like national syndication or national television. And I think it's done deliberately because they want to appeal to that audience who are maybe older white people who aren't, who haven't cut the cord yet, or who haven't really gone to the internet as a means of like receiving their daily entertainment. So I think it may be a deliberate action by them, not because of their bias, but because they want to appeal to the widest audience that they can.
I can definitely see that. I agree with that, but I would not think that's like the majority. Like, so I think it's like that is a lot of the reason why they do that. Put like announcers or whatever, but at least put some like competent ones or whatever. Tony Romo was a hit. Doesn't mean you got to cram the box with Troy Aikman and Jason Witten and God knows every single cowboy that was somebody. Like, they're horrible. But so I can see that being a thing where they're trying to target more when there's obviously a bigger white population in the country. Yeah. But like at the same time, how does the NBA successfully just have most of the announcers or people involved become people of color, and they're actually progressive and they talk about like progressive things, they let their athletes express themselves and all these other stuff, and they're still doing great. They have a great audience and they don't seem to care, and it's worked. They've made more money now.
Well, because like look at the NBA. I mean, the NBA is honestly
it's a lot, yeah.
the NBA, and the NBA is made for a younger audience, man.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, the NBA is made for a younger audience, where as a lot of guys on NBA teams, they're just more marketable because they're more visible.
Mhm.
So with that more marketability on that team, they had to be up with the latest trends, you know. And so, and you know, for instance, like you got a lot of NBA guys that have sneaker deals.
Mhm.
Most of the people who buy these sneakers are like younger people. You know, the NFL, I mean, you know, for the most part, I think that they have an older audience. You know, there's still younger people on there, but the NFL is not as trendy as NBA is. And so I think, you know, with the marketability of the NBA's players, they had to keep up with the trends. And I think the trend is going more towards diversity.
Mhm.
While with the NFL, I mean, the NFL does do its due diligence and provide diversity, but I think that its audience just an older audience, and that it's just a longer time for them to really catch up to a trend. And overall, their players aren't as marketable as NBA players are because they just aren't as visible, you know?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. But
Yeah.
also, that doesn't excuse why teams will see like Russell Wilson on the board. And I know this was a different draft, but hypothetically, they'll draft Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, or the other guy who I was talking about, Christian Ponder.
Yeah.
It's just indescribable. These are guys that were completely terrible, and they were drafted so high because they're white quarterbacks, because they were seen as, oh, they have to get a white quarterback instead of maybe waiting either to the next draft. I mean, people hate Colin Kaepernick. If you're arguing that Colin Kaepernick is not as good as Jake Locker or Christian Ponder, even Blaine Gabbert, just because he was injured and Blaine Gabbert was playing over him while he was injured, Blaine Gabbert didn't take him to the freaking Super Bowl. And Blaine Gabbert wasn't destroying the Packers defense with his legs. So, he was in that same draft. Like, that is, like, overlying example of actual kind of racist behavior. Like, when you're thinking people that have no business being selected that high, or hell, even being in the freaking league, and they're drafted then. And that is the kind of backwards thinking that makes me know, okay, you guys have racial thinking. You guys can't even consider drafting a flyer on one of these black quarterbacks or like a minority quarterback. It's ridiculous unless they're so good that they are going to be the #1 overall pick. And even then, there's talk of like, oh, are they going to really draft Cam Newton first overall? He had to hear that shit when he was the #1 quarterback, and he should have been taken #1 overall.
Yeah,
he took his team to the Super Bowl. Like, shit, that's
well,
what happens.
I mean, my thing is that, you know, what's going to happen is that I think you'll see improvement in trend over time. I think that what you'll see from that is, like, as the leagues or as the NFL gets a little bit more trendy or a little bit more hip, you'll see improvement in that area. But, you know, I still maintain the position that there's a myriad of factors on why this happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would agree. I can't. I'm not completely blaming race, but I do think race is a huge factor. And also, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, because I haven't dealt with these owners personally. The ownership in the NFL is a lot less forward or progressive than ownership in the NBA or things like that. Like, they got rid of Donald Sterling like that. You know, in the NBA, it was not even a problem. And then in the NFL, it takes years, and then the eventual death, like, let's say the Carolina Panthers owner, to find out he was actually a racist, or the death of the Texans owner to find out he was actually a racist. And these guys are raising racists, and they only pick racists to run their organization. So, like, it's a trickle-down effect from the top. Like, while you're saying that the NFL might get more progressive, I don't see these really, really old, super rich white owners magically becoming progressive after being racist their entire lives. So that's the problem that they're dealing with, not so much as like the players or even, hell, the coaches as much, but the owners. The owners are predominantly old-ass rich white people that are from another time that have no business actually owning modern, like, businesses, but they do because they're so rich. And they just buy it like a commodity, and they treat their players like they're freaking, like, like I don't even want to talk about it. It's horrible. So like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're getting paid millions of dollars, but like that doesn't excuse them to break the law doing some things to these players. Like shit. And like honestly, these players are the reason that those like billionaire owners are making all this money. When's the last time anybody walked into an NFL game and said, I'm not here to see the players or the game. I'm here to see the fucking owner. I want to get the fucking owner's jersey on my back and the owner's name stitched on that jersey. That doesn't happen because the owners aren't shit without us fans or the players. The players are everything. The players are the reasons that billions of dollars are being generated, not the owners whatsoever. This whole thing that like an owner is the reason that a business is successful is an American lie meant to disturb people who are working from speaking out against things that are like problematic, like a terrible work week or a terrible work environment. They're just trying to scrape by and get ends meet, so they can't afford to risk everything and speak out against this owner that doesn't do anything other than make a couple of decisions every now and then. Meanwhile, kept collecting most of the money. So like the players should be getting maybe, okay, you haven't, we've talked about in the past where players might not be making as much money as they should be. Now you said that the players don't play as much games as like NBA players. You know what I mean? So maybe they shouldn't get as much as NBA players. But my argument is that the players are making all of the revenue possible. So they should be getting the majority or at least a bigger portion of the generated revenue. You can't look at it compared to other leagues. We should be looking at it as, hey, there's a big pie that the players are making. They should get at least half the slices. Like, they should at least get 25% of the slices. Like, that's all we're saying. We're not saying, like, these players deserve billions of dollars. We're saying that they generated the billions of dollars. What, they should give it to you? You didn't do anything. You didn't fill a stadium. The owners didn't fill the stadiums either. And not to mention, these owners don't pay for their stadiums. So what are they actually paying for? They're not like doing anything other than taking taxpayers' dollars to make money. So through these owners, they have this terrible mentality, and it's really the owner's problem and fault that there's not going to be much progression in the league. That's how it is. But yeah.
Only time can tell, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today, and I want to thank you guys for stopping by, and we had a great episode 4 of JawnZone. I'm Chris Jawn. That's Andre Kitchens, and we'll be catching you guys next time. All right? Yeah. Do you have any last things, Andre, you want to say?
Oh, man. So I guess, you know, our sponsors, we still don't have a sponsor yet.
Nope.
You know, so I guess I just got to, you know, pull a random sponsor. So I guess our sponsor this week will be coat hanger, or should I say clothes hanger. Everybody needs one. If there's a particular sponsor that actually wants to sponsor, you know, us sponsor for the coat hanger, feel free. Everybody needs one.
My sponsor for today is just plain old water. Trying to cut down the soda a little bit, but yeah, I need something for my throat to be, you know, smooth. So thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll catch you guys later.
All right, man. JawnZone.
Peace.
Peace.